That's all right then. And one of those things we had a discussion is that I don't want to go into all the rules and regulations of COVID. There's enough emails, courses and whatever about it. But what I see is not happening is that a lot of places aren't telling people about being COVID safe. Right through to say looking at the website to make sure it's on the website really clearly, because that's you've got the nice life up there in Mackay and in the regional areas. In the city, in Brisbane, our traffic's back to its normal self, but public transport's empty. So it just gives you an idea that people here are still far more concerned about COVID than you are up there. So they, we won't mention names, Chrissy, will we? But we had a discussion with a group of other accommodation houses where they went, oh, but they know we're doing these things, and people here. And I said, but we're not talking about people from here. We're talking about your visitors. We're talking about the people that we want to come and stay there and not be concerned. So it's I think just a simple thing about not just waiting till they get there and you've done all the right things, but in your social media, subtly, certainly on your website, having one of those COVID safe little emblems there is something I think you should all do and put on so that you just keep people's mind at ease. And I think that feeds into who's going to be travelling. And I travelled to Bundaberg on the weekend, drove, of course, and the traffic was just amazing on the highway. Just, people heading north, far more heading north than heading south. But people are getting in their cars, and I think that's the other thing is that although we will have some flights and we've got some good fares coming up, certainly we're not looking at the number of flights we ever had at this stage. And there's still a lot of people really quite concerned about no social distancing on aircraft. So people in their car feel quite in control of the situation. It's their car. They invite who they want to in there. So we're going to see, I think, a lot more of that drive market. And we need to understand that the good thing is, and I've just got some hot off the press latest research, is to say that after Tasmanians, because Tasmanians can't do much else, is that we're the second largest percentage of population that takes drive holidays. So it's Tasmania number one, and then Queensland number two, and it still is the grey nomads, but understand there's a whole lot of grey nomads that don't take camper vans and caravans and so forth, but do get in their car and drive. So that's a really good possible option for us in terms of what's what. But Chrissy, as Chrissy mentioned, and I think, I'm not sure what Taz said in his introduction, trying to work that through, but in some cases we've forgotten about that market. I know it's really important, but it's also important to understand what they're after. And it's ideas for itineraries, and we've been picking on Dan for the last few sessions, Dan, in terms of saying there's, I think, opportunities to do some new itineraries. And as part of what we've been doing, it's been fascinating, and Chrissy, I'll get you to jump in here. We found some new attractions and products around the area. Chrissy, do you want to have a quick talk about those?
Yeah, so I found a company called Action Charters. They're doing some whale watching. They're just starting. They were doing fishing charters before. If anyone knows Chris Bonanno, it's his son. It's only a fairly small boat, sort of got a bit of a deep hull. I went for a paddleboard to check it all out for you on the weekend. And they're doing half-day trips. They're looking at doing day trips so they can stop at an island so you can do some snorkeling or whatever.
So they put this out on Facebook, have they?
Sorry?
Have they got this out on social media, Chrissy?
Yeah, so they've just started advertising it. So they're sending in their membership application today. So we'll be able to start ramping it up a bit and letting people know and get some information. They don't have flyers or anything at the moment. Everything's just like social media. But I really think that, this is something we can all jump onto a bit. It just gives us something else to offer our customers. And then we also found out up at Finch Hatton, they've got hang on, just one second.
You've got to get the right name for it.
What's it called again? The petting farm. It's a
Which?
Petting farm.
the Valley View Minis. Valley View Minis they've got. So once they sort of get all their COVID safe practices in and you can actually touch the animals again. So we've got them up there. And yeah, just sort of, and then we found out today that that Sidetracks, who has the indoor go-karts, they actually have go-karts for disabled people. So, I mean, it's just like we're just from just this is only our fourth one and we've sort of found out all these things already. So we're just sort of saying to everyone, keep your ears to the ground. You just never know.
This seems to be an ongoing problem with us supporting product. These people really need to, it's like pedaling, it's like the go-karts. Yes, we know the go-karts are out there. They've got a product and they forget to actually tell people the exact ins and outs. If they would just even put together a fact sheet to send to all of us,
on Facebook,
that'd be great. They can even do it on Facebook. But the problem over the years has always been, we see all these products come and go, and the people think, oh yeah, I've got the product, and the marketing's got to be done by everybody else, but they've got to give us the tools that we can then on-sell this to our customers.
Yeah, absolutely. So what I've done is with all these businesses, I'm giving them sessions with, you know how I had some mentoring sessions available so that they can sort of have a little look at their business, so they can work with some social media. So no worries, Nick, I'm not going to let them go anywhere.
It's just sad because a lot of people make these investments in these businesses and they forget the crucial element is they've got to get out to the public to tell them who they are and what they do, and it's forgotten a lot of the time.
Yeah,
Well, part of that's actually
that's the great dream, isn't it? You cash in your superannuation or you sell your house in the city and you go and start a business that you've got no idea about and no idea how to market, etc. So that's a real concern, and we see a lot of it in our industry because they think it's easy.
Well, that's the problem when their skill set may be fishing, or it might be I can charter a boat, but the skill set isn't the business, and that's the problem. Is who's working on the business while they're doing, the charters and stuff. I remember in the Fraser Coast there was a guy that did some fishing charters there, and he actually used to say as his ringtone, "Oh, look, if you can't get a hold of me, I'm probably out fishing. Call back tomorrow." Like that's a booking gone. Every time someone called his phone and didn't get through to him, booking was gone. They were never coming back.
Yeah, so what created their brain and to turn around and go, well, I want to do a fishing tour to start off with? I mean,
because they like fishing, Kath. That's it.
They like fishing.
We like fishing. Therefore, it's like Nick and I are going to go and start a rum bar at some stage because we like drinking rum.
You're such a funny boy. Such a funny boy.
But yeah, so all these webinar series, the mentoring, and like I'll just try and keep getting funding, for these type of things so that we can help people. Like, I mean, it's sort of up to them to develop their business, but if we can sort of help with some strategies, through this sort of thing, then hopefully, then we find out about them, we support them, and it's just, and we try and make happen what hasn't happened before.
Yeah, well, and it gives us more product to sell other than just being a beach or a kangaroo, so which is important.
Don't worry, I'm on the search.
She is on the search. So, yeah, Nick, to your point, I think whilst this COVID thing's been terrible, it's been good in the fact that Mackay Tourism has been able to get these grants. So it's not taking money out of your normal funds and so forth, but able to talk to people and find these new products and do two things. One is at the end of this series, we're going to share all that information out to people and we'll probably do a special session where we invite those who have got new products or products we're not aware of to come and run a session like this and tell us about their products. But the other thing is, Chrissy, she won't let them get away without being hearing 101 marketing, etc. in terms of doing that. So I think it gives us a couple of bites at the cherry that perhaps we'd not had before. And as I say, it's cost neutral to the organisation. So, well, apart from Chrissy working 48 hours a day, but we won't talk about that.
No worries. Keep it going.
So another area we've been talking to a lot of people in is this culinary tourism or agri-tourism area. Again, that can create, we had a really good session with the people from the Pioneer Valley yesterday about that, and they're excited to do some more in that. That gives you additional product that, food tourism is the number one fastest growing segment in the world in terms of tourism. So we want to work with those to do local produce at their restaurants and cafes, knowing what's obviously at the markets, which is fantastic. Those that I know when I was doing some work in Kingaroy, they had some bed and breakfast places where they just left the breakfast in people's cabins to cook, but they used local produce. So these are the sausages from, and they had a little note about that saying it. That's a real plus. People are looking for it, and even more so now with COVID. We want to know where our food comes from, and in case I'm being watched by anyone, we don't want to have that Chinese garlic that you turn the light off in the kitchen and it keeps glowing. People are really seeking that out, and you've got some great opportunities there, and we'll be doing some more work in that to get that. So, and again, that's about, you're in the drive market. People can go out and do a day trip out, base themselves with you, and go and do a number of day trips out and go and get some, whatever's in season, whether they're going to get mangoes, whether they're going to get avocados, whatever it is. As I was at Bundy on the weekend, and I came back with a whole stack of produce from there, because it's well known where you can get the things. Sorry?
Hand sanitizer instead of rum?
No, Chrissy, that doesn't taste very good.
No, that's right. I still rub the rum on my hands, and it's fine.
So, James, you remember when we went up before Christmas up to Yongala, and remember there was a guy that had avocados out of season?
Yeah.
Yeah, in Yongala. And we've just had Freckle Farm, who had their farm tour on Sunday, and it was sold out.
Sold out within minutes, wasn't it?
It wasn't minutes, but it was sold out. We've got the farmers market that's up about 250% on a Wednesday. The amount of people going through there is just incredible at the moment. So yeah, it's definitely something we can all jump on the back of.
Yeah, I was talking at lunchtime with the lady who runs Gundawindi Cotton. She's a marketing lady, and they had to diverse and change their ideas on what they used to do, because the majority of their cotton went to the retail stores, women's clothing, and then they also did farm tours going around. And what they've discovered is now with this buy local, they used to, with their farm tours, stop in at their shed as such and have a coffee there and actually try and produce the coffee and the cakes and that themselves. But they've now been able to broaden their horizons, and instead of doing the morning tea themselves, they're going to utilize a local coffee shop instead. So it just makes you a bit more creative with how you approach things, instead of just saying, well, my job or my expertise is I like to fish and I can go fishing. But then maybe the end product with that is not try to teach somebody how to cook the fish, but go to a shop that serves lovely fish. Of course, a bit like what Fish Divine does do, which whether I don't know still will do it early. So be able to mix your two products together, I think, is a brilliant way to go. Instead of trying to be everything to everybody, concentrate on your own core stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because I was part of a team that went out about probably 18 months ago now and did a session out at Gundawindi with the council and people like that to talk about it. Because, a lot of Gundawindi said, oh, but, we don't have much here and we're broadacre farming, and you'd be amazed at what came out of the woodwork in terms of what was being produced out there. And we're finding the same thing in Mackay, is that often the smaller growers that have got some really interesting product. And as a result of doing that one, I still get my beef delivered from Inglewood down to Brisbane. They come down every month. Beautiful beef, and which you would not have known about unless we'd started that work on the farm tours and getting that. For instance, the local restaurants weren't using the local beef. You're just going local with. It's this connectivity thing, and that's part of, as Chrissy was talking about before, is being good about these series of discussions, because it's connectivity again between people, and people coming up and saying, oh, there's so-and-so's got that, or we think we could sell this. So there's a whole lot of small product opportunities, but good opportunities for us to put hopefully into some, I'm looking at you, Dan, again, itineraries for that market, not I suppose, so that we get people understanding that Mackay is a destination. It's not just a transit point, it's a destination because there's a stack of things to see and do. And so that's the first thing. And then making sure that they're aware of all those things when they're there. So we've got some discussions, Dan. I hope you drink rum when I come up to talk about it. But seriously, I think there's, it's about understanding, again, what that drive market is wanting and getting them so that they base themselves with you at all your wonderful places and then give them the opportunities to go out. Similarly, I think we've got shouldn't talk about this, we've got some good opportunities up in the Whitsundays now. They've got that visitor information centre operating again, showing them the things that you got in Mackay that they don't have up there for their drive market. I've done quite a bit of work in there, and they will say we don't have a lot of land-based activities. So if the weather's not good, we're in strife in terms of people not being able to get out in the water, etc. So you've got a whole lot of things there. You mightn't think so, but you've got a whole lot more than they've got. And I think, I know Taz has been up into the enemy territory, crossing over that line there near Proserpine Mode. No, he's pretty sick. No, but seriously, working together.
Don't mention the war. Don't mention the war.
Sorry, that's been banned now.
War's over.
But no, I think there's some really good opportunities on working together on those things, because with what you've got down in that area, you've got a real good opportunity to work with them and get them just understanding what you've got down there, not just it's a stop along the highway.
That's good. Can I just jump in? Sorry, I've got to go to a HR meeting, so I've got to leave in 5 minutes. Sorry, and I thought I'd just jump in. I just got a couple of things I wanted to add to all of that, and then leave it go. So we've been getting into marketing at the moment. So the VFR, obviously we launched our VFR campaign last week as well. I know Dan will talk more about this, but the main markets we see coming back straight away are going to be VFR, because people have probably gone 3 months without friends and family. So we want to do a VFR campaign and try and flood social media full of images to try and say we're back, we're open, we're good to go, so to speak. And I'll get to good to go in a second. So we've gone out, Isaac, my Mackay, and really working on trying to flood social media full of really good images of our region. We've done a regional campaign. We've done it with Sundays because right now we believe it's such a cluttered space, because you've got 13 regions trying to fight for the same target market all at the very, very same time. So if we do it in combination with the Whitsundays, and that's why we did the mates rates, not taking commission, making sure that we can give every cent back to you guys so you can put the best deal possible on the table. That's the concept behind what we're doing, and we're going with a strong brand like the Whitsundays so we can get cut through and traction in amongst that. And we do have a very different practice to the Whitsundays. We aren't about islands and sailing. We're more about the land-based product and our beaches. So I think that it's important that we can differentiate that, but still go together strong, because I think at the moment, if we don't, we're going to get eaten alive by Cairns and every other market that's going into the same drive market right now. The next thing is that we've got the good to go. So there is some good to go messaging, which is the state campaign. And last week, Rainey, thank you, Rainey, and everyone's going to meet Rainey, but she put together a really good, some good tiles for everyone to share about good to go. So you can put that through now. It was in the newsletter last Friday, and there's a Dropbox with some of that sort of stuff. Rainey's also working on a video about good to go as well. So we'll be getting that out this week and talking about trying to get that message about good to go and aligning with the state message that's going through. Also, the state did release their own Busby and Maru video on, it just came out on Monday.
Yeah, yesterday.
Cape Hillsborough has been heavily highlighted again. So we're pushing down that sort of stuff. Coming back to the drive market, though, we're also working on a passport between the three visitor information centres. So it'll be Bowen, Proserpine, and it will be Serena. And guess what the theme is? It's all about food. So if you got Bowen, the mango, you got Proserpine, which is at the coffee plantation, and then you got the Serena sugar shed. So we're going to be doing a passport up and down the highway, which will be based on food and utilising the three visitor information centres to come in, get more information about how to travel around the area. So that's currently happening at the moment. It'll probably come out shortly in and around that. So one of the things, last week I got to catch up with the Premier, and we had a chat about what do we think the main things are that we want to focus on. One of the high level things I wanted to focus on was visitor experience strategy. And the fact is that we are going to have to build trust back into markets. So how do we ensure, I mean, at the moment, probably the only people traveling are going to be people that are in family groups, wanting to know knowing where everyone slept the night before, so to speak, so that you can actually know that when you travel, you're in a safe area. So that's probably what we're going to see first of all. Then we've got to build consistency and the trust back into markets. And the only way I believe we can do it is through visitor experience and making sure there's a consistent visitor experience as we go. So as soon as you hop off the plane or as soon as you enter the region, there's a sticker that lets you know when you go up to Lambert's Point Lookout to look at the whales, you don't have 500 people all of a sudden surrounding you and making you feel like, oh, it's not really safe. So there's a bit of work that needs to be done around our public and private infrastructure projects or infrastructure around the region to ensure that. And I'm trying to work on how do we help SMEs, because now you guys have just been lugged with, 90 days of no income or lack of income. And now you've got all this additional PPE that you've got to get out to ensure the safety of your guests. So I'm trying to work to see how we can help support SMEs through this, because it may not be here for 3 months, it might be here for years. So they're probably the things that I'm working on in the background is how do we get the visitor experience and build that trust so that when they come here, they go, you know what, I know I'm safe every time I go to Mackay. When I have my holiday in Mackay, I know I'm going to be looked after. So they're the bits I wanted to say. I will let Dan go into more detail about the marketing stuff, but I wanted to just give you a bit of an overlay of where I see the land.
Thanks, Taz, for going through my list. That was very kind of you. Just before you go, what about our friends in Isaac? Are we doing some marketing to them to get them to come down and spend a bit of leisure time down on the coast?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have got the VFR campaign happening out there, and the regional campaign is being pushed out through that market in particular because they have got, there's 22,000 people with still earning very high income. So we are still focusing on that region. I did go out to Moranbah Airport last Friday, and we're looking at seeing how we can get some advertising in through the airport. And I'm working with Civio because they've got 8,000 people in mining camps right now that, we want to be able to attract to come through to the region as well. So we are doing a fair bit of work in there, but it's still all it's a bit all over the shop at the moment in terms of trying to pull it together. And also working with them on getting their experiences right, which you probably would have seen the work around the peaks that we're doing as well, because they want to see people going out through the Isaac as well. So we're working on both sides.
Thank you, Taz. Any questions
hey,
for Taz?
James, you took an hour and I took 5 minutes. What's the go with that?
I don't have an HR. I'm not going to get sacked in the next 5 minutes with an HR meeting. So, it's like, see, one of your directors has disappeared off the screen and I'm now getting worried for you, Taz. Sorry.
Don't make promises, please.
James, do you want me to mute Taz? I can.
Yeah, no, he's going now.
I'll leave.
Just before Taz goes, I'll mention one other thing with Whitsundays is there's quite a demand there with the locals, the population there coming down to do shopping in Mackay, and we should, go back and look at some of those markets that perhaps we've forgotten about in the past. It's how can we do that? And we are going to talk to the shopping centres later on in the week to talk about again how they can work together with you guys to just put together something in terms of saying, here's a great idea for a weekend. Come down, don't just race down for the day. Come down and do this, and this, and give
By the sounds of it, we'll need to work with KFC primarily.
So that's two good points there. One is that's exactly right. Dan's onto it. We laugh because apparently every time they come down on their days off, they send a big thing on social media saying, what do you want from KFC? And apparently they buy it by the bucket loads and take it all back and share it around with Sundays. So it's not far from the truth. The other thing is we know that on their days off, they come down because they like to go to the cinemas and stuff like that, which we probably don't see as holidays, but it's something that they don't get up there. So there is ways you can package that up and get romantic getaways to the Early Beach, things like that on their days off to come down. I think that's a really good point. Anyway, I do need to go because I have to go get sacked. So it was nice knowing you all. James will be interim GM from now on. So if you just want to transfer everything through to James, that would be great. He's done it before. He'll do it again.
He only goes forwards.
That's right.
How come he's been back to Mackay a few times then, hey?
No. I mean, in a position. Oh, I won't go there any further.
No, that's it. Thank you, Kath. So, yeah, I mean, they're just a few of the things that we need to remind ourselves with and slip into the social media or whatever you're doing. You're a shocker, Kath. in terms of just getting those ideas into people's minds and reminding them of those things. And it doesn't have to be weekends. It can be whenever they've got time off. And the same with the folk up at Moranbah and whatever. It's you know, some of the things that they don't have that you've got that often aren't thought of necessarily in a tourism or a leisure tourism type concept.
Those rosters they have, James, you know, like 7 days on,
Yeah.
7 days off or whatever, you know, they can be people that will be coming here during the week. So we sort of had a bit of a brainstorm yesterday about, or whatever that was, about what are our attractions. And then we looked, our shopping centres are our attractions, you know, just because they don't have those things in other places. So like you said, we just went way back to basics and yeah, just had a bit of a look at that, which was good.
Yeah.
Because I think it's also a lot of downtime for them where they can just sit, go fishing, go walking, get on the booze. Unfortunately, a few of them do, but yeah, it's sort of like a come into Mackay for a dust off.
Yeah. And you know, I think you know, it's just, this is the thing we just keep reminding ourselves on, because when we started off this last week, wasn't it, Chrissy? It seems to be a million years ago now. You know, people were talking about, oh, we don't have this in Mackay and we don't have that in Mackay, and these were, you know, these were motels and accommodation houses. And we're going, hold on, think about what you've got, not what you haven't got. You've got a stack of things there. And particularly if you look at, you know, that 400k drive radius around you, or 350k, you've got a hell of a lot of stuff there that they don't have in other places. That is a really good attraction for people. And you know, people do have been pent up demand, and we've seen that the type of everyone rushing restaurants here in Brisbane, even though they can only take a small number of people and so forth. Everyone's just rushing to do that. So, you know, it's a good opportunity for you to go in now and give those ideas to people. It doesn't have to be complicated of packaging up and whatever. It's just that what we call bundling. So it's putting ideas in people's minds, you know, come here for the weekend, do some shopping, go to a restaurant, see a movie, whatever it might be, do those things. But are your movie theatres open yet? I just saw that.
No, not yet.
They're opening soon, aren't they?
Yeah, I just saw a release earlier. There's been so many COVID releases, I'm not quite sure. But they have signed off. I know that the cinema industry has signed off on COVID safe now. So that I would imagine, I think Brisbane's looking at type of next weekend, or not far away anyhow in terms of opening cinemas. So, you know, you've got a lot of those things that you haven't got in that fairly big radius around you that you need to be also, you know, it's just a couple of people, but that all helps in terms of that.
James, we might just see if Dan and Rainey, oh, sorry, Mel, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just, sorry, I arrived a little bit late. Sorry about that. And I may have missed it. But, like, I've been in Mackay only for 3 years. And when we arrived, we had about 3 days to get to know Mackay. And then we started in the motel. And as you may know, you don't get out very often. So I'm just wondering, like myself, I know the GM, I know Alara Motoring have got new managers. There's a lot of people who are in the same boat, who everyone talks about what there is to do in Mackay and Mackay tourism and all the rest of it. And I've been asked by a couple of people to bring up, can we get, you talked about working with different products as I came in. Can we get a list or find somewhere easy to find these places and things to do, like the products? Like I've been trying to sit down and work out who I can package with and what products I can package with and recommend. And all I'm doing is scrolling through Facebook, trying to put together my own little list of product and things that you can do in Mackay. So is there, number one, I guess, is it already there that we can easily go into? And if it is, can we just go back to basics and put it out there and say, here it is, let's work together?
Really, really good point. I'll get Chrissy and Dan to talk on what Mackay Tourism has got, but we came up with exactly the same thing yesterday when we were talking to people up the valley and Yangala and so forth.
Yeah.
Is that, you know, we suggested for them that they actually might do a little trip into town and go and knock on some doors and talk to people about what they've got, because there's been, as you say, you're new, and Chrissy started, I think, running out of fingers on the number of people that are new in town. and there has to be that ongoing education. So it's a great point you bring up. Chrissy, do you want to answer that in terms of Mackay Tourism, or Dan?
Put that one over to Dan.
Thanks, Chrissy. I'll just handle it over to Rainey. Yeah, I mean, we've got probably the Facebook group that we have, the Mackay Tourism group. Obviously, one of the main goals of that was to get sort of as much engagement. So people like Sidetracks whenever they have a new deal, you know, they post, you know, that they've got a new product, or you know, the action charters. So that way, our sort of motel owners can see that and sort of jump on that opportunity to sort of pass that information on to their guests, but also to create packaging sort of deals. We've also got, you know, when we've got our membership list on the website, which at the moment is split into the different classes of membership that we had. I don't know, Chrissy, if with the sort of new membership format we're going to have this year, whether we split it into accommodation, tours, which I think is how it's done in the visitor guide. So it's probably not a big job to sort of implement it that way. And that's probably, you know, the main way in terms of the marketing perspective. Yeah, and probably some more familiars. I know we do familiars with our volunteers. Here is we take familiars, you know, up to Youngler, for example, and they'll see some of the different, you know, products on offer, whether we can extend that out to, you know, do as you said, as James said, like a bus that we take either Youngler people here, or, you know, some motel operators in Mackay up to Youngler, or, you know, Cape Hills, or even out to Isaac, just to sort of connect the dots. Connect the two linkages, because there's obviously tour operators want to get in contact with the motels, and the motels want to get in contact with the, you know, the tour operators, even though, you know, there's not a lot at the moment. Because I know, talking to like Jason Kidd Inshore Fishing, for example, a lot of his clientele he gets because, you know, people check into a motel, and, you know, often they'll be like, oh, what can I do? And often it'll be fishing, and then they're like, oh, where can I go fishing? So if you can create that sort of link straight away, then that creates a happy customer for the motel or hotel, and it creates obviously, you know, a booking for your tour operator.
So, Melissa, the other thing that Chrissy and I were talking about was with, and it was with the new people that we found, the new tour attractions and so forth. But we could extend that, because we're now all getting used to Zoom, and potentially have a session with those people. It might be once every couple of weeks, either new product or different product on a Zoom thing at a certain time, and that's a pretty efficient way to get out to people and talk to them. And flexible as well, because what Chrissy is an expert at this now, records those Zoom things, so you can, if you're busy at that time, you can go back and watch it at 8 o'clock at night or whenever it might suit you. So, Chrissy, I think that will be something that we can talk about.
I think so, because, you know, like you can have on there Mount Pleasant. I've actually went running with the lady who manages Mount Pleasant on Sunday. So like they're going to come on as a member, and she's going to get in contact with their shops. We've got Caneland, like Blue Water Lagoon, all these people that we didn't even think of that really as big attractions before, but we can get them all on in the one session and just chat about what they've got coming up, and just keep us informed. And like I said, we'll sort of do a library of those, like we have done with the webinar session. So, you know, it might be talking about attractions or talking about events coming up or whatever. I think that'll be like really useful, rather than probably having a list almost that we keep adding to. I think a list is good, because we'll be able to, you know, have contact details and all that sort of thing, but we could probably
just a quick glance, a quick find sort of thing. A list would be as well, Chrissy. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's fine. I think a list that we've got, you know, like as part of our members list, and we can call it attractions or whatever. And even if it overlaps, an attraction overlaps into something else, it doesn't matter. They can be on both lists. It really doesn't matter. I suppose that's website people.
I'd just like to comment on what Dan said and what Chrissy said. I personally think a list is the best way to go, and especially at the moment, because we're all busy running our accommodation places. We can't get in a bus to go up to Yongala because we don't have the flexibility to do that, especially at the moment when things are so tight. But what I really think is a list means if you're not the person who watches that webinar, the person who doesn't watch it can actually find out if they've got a list. And that list needs to include what's actually open and what restaurants are open, because and what sort of conditions. For example, I went into town last night with my husband and we ended up driving around for 20 minutes to find some place that was actually open for dinner before we could even see if we could get a seat. So if I was a tourist in Mackay driving around for half an hour, I think we need to actually have more up-to-date information on how, you know, I know you have to book for most restaurants, but when they're open and when you can, you know, do you need to book? And also, what is open in terms of tours for people to do, because looking on Facebook doesn't cut it with me, and it doesn't cut it with a lot of busy motel operators, because when you miss something on Facebook, you go back in a week's time and go back for the last week, you're inundated with so much crap, you don't see the good stuff in there. So I actually think it would be far better. Don't, you know, if you want to do the Facebook stuff, that's fine. But there's a lot of operators who don't have time to troll Facebook to look for something that might not even be there. So I think a written document that could be updated once a week by Mackay Tourism, as in this is open, this is open, this is open, would be really great for us when we get holidaymakers to come in, because I think that's the best way we can help them. It's great to have stuff at Serena Sugar Shed or, you know, or Proserpine Information Centre or Bowen, but not everybody goes to those places. So we as an accommodation operator need to know exactly what's available, when and how is the best way for someone to access it.
It would be up to the individual operators to keep that updated as well, Chrissy. Like, that sounds like a lot of work for yourself. So put it back on the operators to keep it, like, to keep the list updated would be the big thing there.
And we're going to be talking to the restaurateurs and cafe people later in the week in one of these sessions, and we'll be, thanks for that, Karen, because we'll be asking them to do that. And we really, rather than Chrissy having to spend till 1 o'clock in the morning ringing them all up, we'll be asking that they keep Mackay Tourism informed, because that's about maximising their business as well. Because, you know, as Karen said, you don't want to be driving around for 20 minutes to try and find somewhere that's open. You want to be able to find, no, well, these ones are open, or even ringing, you know, the ones to ring who are open. So
most of them members in the hospitality side, as in restaurants, are most of them members of Mackay Tourism yet, Chrissy?
A lot of them aren't, but with this new free membership that we've got, you know, it gives them a chance to come on and, you know, sort of get involved in the whole thing. So
yeah. The other thing, as much as going through Facebook, Karen, as you said, Mackay Tourism we've got our members on Facebook. So that's a one-stop shop that you can go to and have a look at instead of scrolling, because I hate scrolling through Facebook, gives me the shits. But yeah, so if you go to that one-stop shop that, like, say for instance, 8 o'clock every morning, the things are just being dumped in there so that you know what's going on.
But not much is getting dumped in there, Kath. That's
what I'm saying. Perhaps maybe that might be a spot that can be pushed for people to put that information into, because it's you need something that's a go-to.
Yes, not
just relying on a list all the time.
Yep.
Almost like creating a notice board of some sort that people can just go on and say, I'm open, this is my opening hours, and this is when I'm not open. Something that you know they can log into and update themselves.
James, do you know what other areas are doing? Because I mean, it's such a changing beast at the moment. Everything's changing so quickly. Do you know what other areas are doing to try and keep people up to date with this sort of thing?
So they're having all the same struggle, because the rules are changing so rapidly. You know, that you've got people, you know, literally changing with the rules what they can do. But I think it's a matter of, we've got to look at a number of different ways. And, you know, one is that you and I keep reminding people to tell us about what they're doing as part of this. I think the closed Facebook page is a good one in terms of that, because that's almost, Nick, to your point, the notice board as such. And I think we can use these. I know there's been a lot of Zoom things on and people are probably getting sick of them, but I think we can probably do a short, you know, perhaps even a weekly update, perhaps a 10-minute update that's recorded. So you don't have to, you know, you don't have to be there when it's on. You can go into and click on the link and away you go. So it's like, okay, you know, wakeboarding this week we'll be doing such and such, you know, just some little snippets of stuff also that we can put on. So because as you know, there's no just one. I mean, it's like saying, oh, well, we send an email out. Oh, I missed that email. You know, it's like, so I think we need to look at a number of different ways of doing it. But the key to it, and that's the real key to it, is to get the industry people letting us know what's what, because otherwise, you know, that's
communication, James. That's all it all boils down to. Because if you don't communicate what you've got, we can't sell it for you, or we can't recommend it. So
yeah, and that's kind of started with some of the stuff that we've done with these new little attractions we found. You know, there's been no communication from them whatsoever. But look, the good thing, I suppose, is again that we're opening that communication up with, say, the restaurants, and you know, for the ones that aren't members, they've all been invited to do the session with us. So we've got that opportunity to say to them, guys, you need to let people know. There's a couple of different ways you can do that, you know, so that I suppose we're connecting them with the tourism industry, which a lot of them have probably never seen themselves being involved with before.
James, Dan and Rainey are going to go now. Is anybody needed to ask any more questions about marketing campaigns or anything? I think Taz pretty much covered it all.
Yeah.
Can I ask a quick question, Dan? Yep. That Instagram thingy that you mentioned on
the Instagram itinerary?
Yeah.
Did you send anything out?
Sorry, I'm a little bit lost.
Okay.
The Instagram itinerary we did.
Yeah.
Have we sent any out?
Something that we could utilise?
We've used it a lot on social media. It's on our website. They're displayed down at the VICs.
Oh, okay.
Is that?
Did it get sent to all the members?
Was that
members can pick them up from the.
Okay, was that what was mentioned when we had that afternoon drinks last week?
Okay, I might have been still on the golf course.
Yeah, no, that's what was mentioned, Kath. So
yeah, thank you.
So Dan, maybe in our next newsletter, can you just pop that in again for people so that or a link to that so that they can grab it and.
Oh yeah.
So they just want to have access to it.
Yeah. You can repost it in the members group if you want.
Okay. If you do that today, then you all got it.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Dan.
Okay. See you guys. Thank you.
Thanks. Karen, back to your question or discussion before about, you know, you haven't got time to go to Youngler and whatever. What we were suggesting is actually they do the other thing, is they get down, and because I think that's an old, you know, I'm an old fogey, but that's an art that's been forgotten, is going and doing a quick door knock around the place. And, you know, I think we'll suggest those to the cafes and restaurants too, is that, you know, they need to, you know, I know everyone's busy, but they will find some times when they're not, and just go out and knock over X number of places every day and leave some brochures, talk to them and make that contact, because I think that's been broken over the years. It used to be the way things happen, and then everyone got busy or used emails or Facebook or whatever.
And the point is, for the restaurants in town, they could come out and, you know, the Northern Beaches can get together and they can talk to half a dozen people at one time.
Yeah.
So, but it's just for each of us to be away from our properties for a long time is difficult.
Understand that totally. So we were suggesting the other way around, is that they came.
And James, when I was in Cairns, we were 8 years up there, and in Trinity Beach, and the local restaurants and the tour providers all came and door knocked. I've not seen anybody in 3 years that we've been here. Like, and that's the big difference. Like, and you know, I've struggled to see Mackay as a tourism destination, and probably only for that reason. Like when, you know, and Chrissy coming on board has been wonderful. And this has probably been a great thing for me because I've had time to sit and listen to people like yourselves on the webinars and to see what, you know, what's happening in the area and everything. But you don't hear that from the local businesses at all.
Well, we've got to sell Mackay to Mackay, so to speak.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm a fan of door knocking. That's where I got to know you, Mel, first when I was at the chamber.
Absolutely, yeah, and that was it, sort of thing, you know. So, yeah, it comes down, as you say, Mackay's got to get to know Mackay because, you know, as a new person, you can talk to people and they go, we're not really a tourism place. Well, yeah, you are. You've just got to learn about it.
Yeah.
And James, I think that's perfect for us to talk to the restaurants and cafes and just say our accommodation providers, they don't know about you. They don't know your story. They don't know what you sell. And they actually want to be able to support you, but you might just have to go and make friends with them.
Yeah, our little restaurants up at Trinity, they used to bring us a voucher every 3 months. You know, I'm not saying they need to do that, but, you know, it certainly helped. If we were there and eating, you're definitely going to promote it to your visitors and everything. So, you know, we've got a little restaurant on site that, you know, we're about to open to the public and that, but we can see people stream across the road to the Shamrock every night and you know, there's people who don't like eating in motel restaurants. They want to go out and try other places. So,
well, and I think there's the other benefit of it. If they do that, they also go and see the accommodation places. So, you know, if they've got people saying, oh, we're coming up to town, oh, well, you know, why don't you try so-and-so? So it's a two-way street too, because
we're not open on a weekend and we're not, you know, have no plans of doing that. We're looking for places to send people on a weekend.
That's great feedback. That is such good feedback that we can actually, it gives us something really strong to talk to them about.
And I'm happy to, you know, throw in a few things of what the Cairns places used to do because it was a great little system and we all knew each other. We all knew the restaurants. We had confidence in the restaurants where we were sending the people. You know, and it helped everybody. So, yeah.
Excellent. I love feedback.
No, it's good. That's another.
I put that one with my special highlighter.
Can I ask a question, James? Please?
Yes, certainly.
About agri-tourism.
Yeah.
And food tourism, you know, which is the big growth thing. With the agri stuff, you're talking about farm tours. Is that what you're trying to? Look,
it's we use the word agri-tourism because we were able to get a grant for agri-tourism. So for me, I'd rather talk about food tourism, but it includes all those things. So it's everything from farm gate, which is like a honesty box by the side of the road, through to farm tours, through to local restaurants, making sure they've got, you know, whatever fresh local produce there is around. They often forget about our butchers. Most of them, you know, a lot in regional areas. I was up in Crow's Nest the other day. The butcher has his own cattle and he's had the same pork supplier for 40 years. And then a lot of them in Queensland smoke their own hams and make their own small goods. And so that's local produce as well. Bakers, you know, the ones that don't just get the bags of mix, the ones that actually make bread. So there's a whole range. It's a really huge area in terms of being involved. And people like to, you know, I mean, not only knowing where the food comes from, but, you know, if I'm in Mackay and it's known for X, Y, Z, you know, great avocados out of season because they're growing up in the chilled area of Youngalore or whatever it might be, that's what people will come and look for, you know, and it's huge all over the place. And unfortunately, a lot of places in Queensland have just I think we just accept our food as it is without saying that it's really something special for visitors. And just as an example, I've got a friend who's got a cafe up in Hampton, which is about 6 houses, half an hour's drive north of Toowoomba, and she specialises in as much as she can local produce, and she turns over $20,000 a week there, right? Because people come she'd sort of called herself a destination cafe or a destination restaurant now. So, you know, there's a whole lot of those things, and that's, you know, great with that weekend traffic, for instance. If someone comes in, okay, they'll stay somewhere. We're somewhere special to go for dinner, not whatever, but it's got, you know, and the other side of that is this this thing in terms of experiences. So, make sure that the restaurant actually says on the menu, not just local produce or local fish or whatever, but say, the waiter will say, look, this is a wahoo that was caught this morning at 6 o'clock in the morning. The boys went out and got it, and it's fresh and great to eat, and we suggest you grill it, or, So there's a whole story comes along with that, and it's really good also in terms of getting publicity for an area and so forth. And we've been doing a bit of work on it, Chrissy and I, and it's really interesting because we had the discussion about Gundawindi before, because when I first talked about it up in Mackay, people went, "Oh, there's not much growing up here," and I said, "Hey, if we can do something in Gundawindi, So again, it's a bit of those things that we were talking about before. I think to Melissa that we've got to get people in Mackay understanding what you got there and so forth. So there's a whole project there, but it's really exciting stuff, and it gives you something else to build around it. So you can do, whatever's in season, you can do some suggested, and it doesn't have to be a tour bus. It's got to be a tour bus if you want to visit the farms. But if you want to do a drive and it says, drive through the country, even look, I don't know, sugar table comes in and out of fashion. It makes rum, so I think it's a really good product. But how much explanation is there about sugar these days? Growing sugar, just when people drive by, well, what's that? How do they do that? So, I think even in a simple thing like that again, we've lost some of the basics to say, all the stuff around you, let's tell people what it's about. What does it do? How does it, what do they do in those big things with great big smokestacks on them and so forth? And there's stories to be told, I suppose, which are all just interest points, because everyone's interested in things. The grey nomads are really interested in things and want to know more about things. So, I think, again, there's opportunities for us to go back and go to some basics and say, okay, what have we got that we need to talk to people about, and tell them a really good story about it.
I always say people don't. Sorry, Karen. I always say people don't know what they don't know. So. When I was working at the farmers market the other day, I said to Emma from Shore Seafoods, "Emma, tell me, what have you got in here? What's fresh?" And she goes, "Oh, I've got mud crabs that were caught yesterday afternoon." And she opens up the back of the truck, and there's these gorgeous looking big mud crabs. And I went, "Where's your sign?" She said, "In the truck." I said, "Get your bloody sign out of the truck. Put it out here." I went and told every stall holder about Emma's mud crabs. So that was sort of the story of the day. But it was just, people just don't know what they don't know. We need to be talking about it. Sorry, Kieran.
What I was getting onto with James' question was, my husband watches Landline, and they had an article about barramundi farmers. And there's a barramundi farmer here in down south in Mackay that does huge business, except for when coronavirus is on. But to do a tour of something like that, or the prawn farm that's just north of Mackay that's expanding, I think it was one that was going to expand greatly, to have the drive market, the opportunity for them to actually go and have a look at these places. And I know they're not tourist operators, but, there's possibly an opportunity to do something like that with those places that I only know about because they're on Landline. But, Mackay Tourism did the paddock to plate stuff last year, which I think worked well. I'm just thinking in terms of a drive market, and everybody these days is talking about Australia's primary produce and what we grow and what we make. And if we can actually do a bit of an educational tourism thing on primary industries to try and support them in some way, but I know it's not as simple as just saying.
It's not simple, Karen. There's all kinds of biosecurity issues. I did the recce for the Surfing the Menu TV series. They paid me to go and eat, which I thought was fantastic. So I went to Crystal Bay, which I think is the biggest producers of prawns in Australia, up top of Mission Beach area. And we had to go through huge amounts of, put on boots and go through special solutions and sprayed with whatever, because if they get a disease in there. But there are ways around it. I've got a contact who's one of the biggest avocado growers in Australia. He doesn't want people pouncing through his avocado grows. But what he's done is put a window in his packing shed, so people can not go into the shed, because again there are a whole lot of things, but they can see what's happening in there, and he can and he then sells them avocados and has got a brochure, and he's actually very forward thinking. He's got a sticker on each of his avocados which has got a QR code on it, which if you're into QR codes you can put it up near your phone and it tells you the whole story of that avocado. So I think there's really good opportunities to go and talk to them, because if you don't go and talk to them, they don't think of it either. No. And it may be as simple as having, being able to buy the prawns there or the barramundi to know you've got the absolute freshest, and this has just been, or alternatively places in town that fishmongers that have it, or restaurants that specialise in it. I'll tell you, I'll shut up in a minute, but I'll tell you a quick story from Bundaberg's. I went and saw it's now the biggest the biggest macadamia growing area in the world. And I went and saw the largest of the people, Macadamias Australia, about 10 years ago, and said, you should be doing some stuff with tourism around this. And they went, James, you don't understand. We export every macadamia we grow. The smallest bag we have is 20 kilos because we export it in bulk. And, it's just be a bloody nuisance to us. Nicely, but not so. So let's roll on about 7 years later. And I saw them and I said, oh, James. I went, what? They said, well, we had a little house on the property. We moved that to the front of it. We put a shop in there. We're now producing 500 grams packs. We've got 6 different flavours. We're taking people on tours. What they said, do you know they actually pay to go and see an avocado growing? I said, well, in the city, you've got no idea what an avocado looks like on a tree. They've just, and I saw the foundations, they're just building a $1.8 million tourism centre and plant. And I said, why have you, what's the difference? You didn't listen to me. They said, no, we didn't listen to you. But it took all that time for us to realise that it was part of our brand, and it was part of selling our product, and it was part of, in fact, getting a wider product rather than just selling in bulk and so forth. So, it's a big job, but it's a matter, if you don't go and knock on their door and have a talk to them, you don't end up getting that product. So Chrissy and I have got some discussions, hopefully with Sunday Food Network, and we can give them some examples of, and your examples of the prawn farm and the barramundi farm are fantastic to have that in terms of being able to go out and give some examples, because they've now got a full-time, is it?
They've got
employee.
They've got a project coordinator for the funding they've got,
yeah.
And that's been extended. So so basically they've got someone on the ground who can do all this.
So we can seed the ideas.
Like me.
Yeah, we can seed them the ideas. So Chrissy just doesn't have to go out and do the knocking on the door, that they've got someone. So we'll be actually mentoring that person to do that work for the tourism side of things. But thanks, Karen. That's a really good thing that, again, easily forgotten.
Yeah.
Can I just make a point? It's really interesting. I've sort of been sitting here listening to all the stuff about, product and hidden places and stuff. We don't have a product. We have a communication problem. The whole area is just not working conducively together. I mean, we need to come up with some sort of a communication strategy where everybody participates, because it becomes blatantly obvious. Everything that we talk about, it seems to be a secret. People just keep it to themselves. It's just bizarre. We all want to move forward. The only way that you'll move forward, if people in the industry start talking together. It is a real, it might sound really like a basic thing, but we're missing this particular basic in the whole equation. That's why we seem to be suffering in trying to cross-sell one another. And I mean, I'm not sure how we can put that across to everybody, but it becomes blatantly obvious. Restaurants don't talk together. They don't talk to anybody else. Small attractions, we've got all this wonderful product everywhere, and we're just not getting the communication right between one another. And that is the crux of everything. All that I've heard here is about communication from product to consumer, from restaurant to restaurant. We're not as cohesive as what we should be. And I know that within the accommodation industry, that's a big problem. but it's the communication between one another that I think is the biggest issue.
You're right, Nick. Yesterday we had some people on from Finchhatton, from the Valley, and from Youngo, and some of them didn't know each other. I mean,
Bizarre.
yeah. I mean, so I think sometimes we've got to go back and do some basics on getting people together. And as I said to Karen, I said to the people in Youngo, for instance, I know you're all busy, but how long is it since you've ever gone down to any of those properties in Mackay that you want to get to people? And just give them a brochure and talk quickly about what you've got and say, if you've got some spare time, come up and have a lunch, whatever it is. And they went, no, we don't even know. So I'm going, so you're expecting,
hard, James.
Yeah, you're expecting them to know. And I know it's time and work, but it's also should be part of the system. It's like.
What about the fact of introducing, and I know that probably will take a whole person to do, but for maybe all of the members that are on and all of this new product that we will hopefully get along the way, a 30-second or not a 30-second, a 3-minute video or GoPro on that. And I'm only going back on, like, the only time I go walking at the moment is when I'm on the iFit. And I follow a guy who's a fitness leader, and he's taken me all over. Yeah, not Nick. He's taken me all over the Grand Canyon. So he's physically got a GoPro on somebody behind him, and they've walked it through. So that sort of thing, I think we need to perhaps not immediate, but venture down the line to be able to turn around and go, this is what happens when you go out with the guys fishing. This is what happens on the prawn farm. Even though you can't suit up, you can still see and you
absolutely
go,
right. You can do
this product at the dispensary sort of thing. So,
No, don't lose that thought. I know Chrissy's taking notes, and she was worried yesterday. She talked to me about the number of ideas that have come up already. Well, look, thank you for everyone for your input, because that's what this is about today. We can't solve everything today, but by opening up this conversation, it's great to get training on social media and training on this and training on that, webinars, but this is about us talking. This is
Look how many people have attended today. I mean,
I know time's always an issue, but
Well, we've recorded it and we'll be putting it out to people. If you missed out on it, make sure you look at it, please. So, the technology.
What's the uptake on people who go back in and have a look? Do you get ticks?
I haven't put this on YouTube for our webinar series.
Yeah.
Our very first webinar for the business one, we had about 90, that was right back, we had about 90 people go on and view it for like a really decent period of time. So I think people I'm just going to keep putting it out there that this is our library of, I put it on Facebook.
That's a good word for it.
This is our library of this is our library of this. If you're in an event, jump on here. If you need a bit of social media, there's the schedule. I always put the schedule with it so they know which webinar it is. And with these, so as soon as we finish this, because I've had a few texts and a few emails of people saying, really sorry I couldn't make it, which is great. People that have never, ever, ever been to anything since I've started at Mackay Tourism are saying, oh, thanks so much. I just got really busy. And I said, that's okay. I'll send a video to you. And they're going, that's great. So we're sort of touching people that haven't sort of been engaged at all, which is great. So we're sort of growing our audience, which is
which is a good thing to do. But if we don't all communicate, we're all screwed.
But this is what this is about, and this is why this series was so important. This last part of this business recovery was communicating with each other. Then what we'll do is the last 3 or 4 sessions, we'll say to everyone, okay, we're going to be looking at attractions. Which of you businesses would like to come along to that webinar, and we'll have a chat about that. So, we're going to be restaurants here. We've got some restaurants. Who wants to come along? And so we're going to sort of try and join people on Zoom.
Bit of speed dating on Zoom.
Yeah, that's all we can do at the moment. But people will be able to go and watch that video if they missed it to sort of see what we're discussing. So it's that starting of the conversation and communicating, because I know that's everything. If you don't create relationships, then nothing happens.
I also think in future, Chris, and this is a bit down the track when things get opened up again, it'd be great at some of our functions to have 2 or 3 of these new small businesses just do a 5-minute presentation throughout when we start or in the middle of it, just to get those people some prominence and give them some exposure and get them to network, and hopefully that'll get them into thinking that it's extremely important for their business to talk to everybody.
Yeah, because we're not having the tourism awards this year, are we?
No.
No.
Even
See,
when-
I mean,
Pardon?
that might be a
So
perfect
maybe
opportunity
when
for
we
us to
can
do
get
something
together
bigger and different.
in big groups is to turn around then and invite everybody, all the foodies that are there, and you can have like
I've got a plan.
little tasting. I know
Oh,
there's
you've
a
got a
lot of
plan.
work. Yeah.
I've already got my plan. Already
Yeah.
got it. I'm just waiting for things to open up to see what date this thing
Yeah.
that I'm planning is going to be. So all over it.
This monster, good girl.
Okay, well, I don't want to throw you off, but we know time's busy and we've gone over time. We're happy to keep chatting, but we also don't want to.
Grass to mow. Yeah.
But as always, if anybody's got any more feedback, just flick it through to me and I'll add it to my big page of, I use my highlighter a lot today. That's a good thing. That means it was a very important conversation.
Yeah.
My action it highlighter. And yeah, so just flick it through to me. Like after the session yesterday, I had one of the ladies from Youngala go, oh, I've got all these great ideas, and boom, boom, boom. And I said, yep, I'll add it to the list.
Yeah.
But that's great. You know, we're going to have heaps of things, but, you know, there's only going to be so much that we can do at the start, but at least it's got the ball
It's also
rolling.
getting some of those people on their own path of organising their own thing. They can be a proponent of something if they want to start something themselves. I always love it when lots of people get lots of ideas and they give it to someone and you go, there you go, right, you run with it. You know, I think the more people become involved themselves, the more they'll learn out of the process and the more they'll see the importance of pushing all of that. So I don't think there's anything wrong with saying, like, we had our little Northern Beaches co-op, and we've done, you know, over the years, we've done stuff together because we found it was much easier to work with each other than against each other, and it's worked very well.
Fabulous. Yep.
All right, Chrissy, do you want to do the wrap up?
I'd just like to say thank you to James and thank you to everybody for turning up. And I always say thank you to our local buying foundation through their BIG funding. It's just, yeah, we've been so lucky to be able to have this series, and especially this last bit. I'm just finding this is sort of pulling it all together, and that's why, yeah, James and I thought that this was a good idea, and then we've got the whole agri-tourism thing that we've got mixed up with. So, oh dear. Anyway, thank you, everybody. I know everybody's really busy, so